Unless you go too far, Hollywood is a place of glamour, and second chances. Some celebrities recover from scandals, but others are excluded for good. Some performers have committed unimaginable crimes and received lifetime bans from the industry due to startling scandals and behind-the-scenes conflicts. However, what specifically caused them to fail? Was it a mistake that ended his career or something darker? You may be surprised by some of these names. Join us as we unveil stars Hollywood has utterly excluded and the astounding explanations behind their banishment. Brendan Fraser. Once a Hollywood golden kid, Brendan Fraser starred in popular films like Encino Man and George of the Jungle and led the Mummy franchise. But in 2003, he accused former Hollywood Foreign Press Association president Philip Burke of inappropriate behavior, which led to a startling decline in his career. Fraser saw a sharp drop in offers, which he said was a factor in his abrupt exit from big-budget movies. While some attributed his waning career to health problems, numerous operations, and Hollywood's move away from his style of action hero, many conjectured that he was unofficially blacklisted. In a devastating interview, Fraser said, "The phone does stop ringing in your career, and you start asking yourself why." He was limited to voice acting and minor roles for almost 20 years. On the other hand, Fraser triumphantly returned to The Whale 2022, for which he won an Academy Award. His tale of tenacity demonstrates that genuine brilliance can ultimately triumph over even the most imperceptible industry prohibitions. Rose McGowan. With her roles in the iconic TV series Charmed and the horror movie Scream, Rose McGowan rose to fame in the late 1990s. She was a highly sought-after actress during the height of her career. But once she accused producer Harvey Weinstein of sexual assault, her life and career took a drastic shift. McGowan said that the elite of Hollywood plotted to silence her since she was among the first women to reveal Weinstein's predatory practices. She said that in return for her silence, she was paid hush money and placed on a blacklist. Rather than retreating, McGowan became a vocal campaigner who criticized Ben Affleck and other actors for supposedly failing to take action. Regretfully, Hollywood grew farther distant from her as her activism grew. Her acting possibilities virtually vanished due to the industry's dismissal of her as a troublemaker. Despite this, McGowan has continued to speak out against the negative aspects of Hollywood, demonstrating that some performers put justice before celebrity, even if it means being permanently barred from the business. Randy Quaid. Once a well-liked actor, Randy Quaid's career took a strange and tragic turn after he played Cousin Eddie in National Lampoon's Vacation. Quaid was charged in 2007 for bullying the actors and crew of The Merry Wives of Windsor when he was a cast member. He was expelled from Equity, the actors' union, and fined a hefty $81,000 for the alleged verbal abuse and unpredictable behavior. However, his problem didn't end there. Quaid and his spouse, Evie, started making accusations that they were the targets of a covert gang of Hollywood star whackers who were purportedly killing famous people. The couple's outrageous statements further exacerbated Hollywood's hesitancy to collaborate with him after they fled to Canada for refuge. Arrests for squatting in a former residence and missing court appearances were among the ensuing legal issues. Some people think he was a victim of his paranoia, while others see him as a tragic person. Regardless of the facts, one thing is sure. Quaid's once thriving career is now a distant memory, and Hollywood has permanently slammed its doors to him. Corey Feldman. With his iconic parts in The Goonies, Stand By Me, and The Lost Boys, Corey Feldman was one of the biggest child stars of the 1980s. Behind the scenes, however, Feldman's life was anything but glitzy. He has long maintained that a strong Hollywood pedophilia ring targeted him and his late pal Corey Haim. Feldman claims that he was blacklisted as a result of speaking out against these perpetrators. He used narcotics to cope with the stress of his experiences, which made his exile in Hollywood worse. His significant parts vanished due to directors and producers viewing him as untrustworthy. Feldman claimed that the industry wanted him silent and that it was almost impossible for him to get big jobs even after sobering up. Since then, He has dedicated his life to bringing light to Hollywood's most sinister secrets, creating documentaries, and pushing for more safeguards for child performers. Feldman refuses to be hushed despite the blacklisting, demonstrating that sometimes speaking up is more crucial than maintaining good standing in the profession. Dalton Trumbo. Despite being one of Hollywood's most gifted screenwriters, Dalton Trumbo's career was ruined during the Red Scare of the 1940s. When called before the House Un-American Activities Committee, Trumbo, a well-known Communist Party member, declined to testify against his co-workers. He was consequently prohibited from working in Hollywood and placed on a blacklist. Trumbo, however, was not going to give up. He scripted Roman Holiday and The Brave One under pretenses, both of which were Academy Award winners. He also secretly worked on several other movies, demonstrating his uncontrollable talent. Actors Kirk Douglas and Otto Preminger lifted his ban in the late 1950s when they credited him for Spartacus and Exodus. Later, his name was added to all the movies he had written under false identities by the Writers Guild of America. Trumbo's tenacious narrative demonstrates that genuine talent will continue to shine despite industry-wide restrictions. His reputation endures as a testament to artistic resistance to censorship. Monique's Oscar-winning performance in the 2000 film Precious should have been a turning point in her career. Instead, it signaled the start of her exile in Hollywood. It was said that the actress was difficult since she declined to do unpaid promotional work for the movie. Later, director Lee Daniels acknowledged that Monique had been placed on a blacklist because she refused to follow Hollywood's rules. She asserted that influential people like Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey contributed to her marginalization and that she was punished for advocating equitable treatment. Monique's exile was only exacerbated by her inability to accept responsibility or change. She attempted to return years later, but few jobs were available and her reputation suffered. Her blacklisting may have come to an end in 2022 when she was cast in Daniels' horror movie, The Deliverance. Her case is still among the most contentious in Hollywood, though, and it has sparked discussions about gender, ethnicity, and power in the entertainment sector. The tale of Monique warns about the consequences of defying Hollywood's expectations. Sondra Locke. Following her Oscar-nominated performance in The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, 1968, Sondra Locke's career appeared to rise. But Hollywood abandoned her despite her apparent skill after her turbulent relationship with Clint Eastwood. After a 14-year romance, the couple's split became a contentious court dispute. In 1989, Locke filed a palimony lawsuit against Eastwood, alleging that he had ruined her career by getting her to sign a fake directorial contract with Warner Brothers. Despite the seemingly substantial deal, the studio turned down all 30 of her proposals. Later, she learned Eastwood had shadily negotiated the agreement to keep her out of the business. Locke filed a second fraud claim, ultimately settled after being deceived and banned. Her career never recovered, no matter how hard she tried. She could never return to her previous prominence despite a few low-budget appearances. Many people think Eastwood's influence hurt her career in Hollywood for good. Her tale, which demonstrates how easily Hollywood can abandon someone, is one of love, treachery, and the regrettable truth of power dynamics in the motion picture business. Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen used to earn $1.8 million each episode for his part in 2.5 Men, making him the highest-paid actor on television. However, his self-destructive actions resulted in one of the most notorious collapses in Hollywood history. Fueled by substance misuse and personal troubles, Sheen's public outbursts became unpredictable in 2011. He publicly criticized Chuck Lorre, labeling him a clown and using anti-Semitic words, which escalated his dispute with the creator of 2.5 Men. To exacerbate the situation, Sheen, who felt untouchable, demanded a 50% pay raise. He was barred from significant television jobs after Warner Brothers sacked him because they had had enough. Sheen's strange media appearances after leaving, when he claimed to have tiger blood and to be winning, solidified his reputation as untrustworthy. Anger management was his effort at a comeback, but it failed. His private life, which included being publicly diagnosed with HIV, nonetheless overshadowed his acting talent. Even now, Sheen serves as a warning about how unbridled conceit and addiction can ruin even the most prosperous careers. Kirk Cameron. In the 1980s, Kirk Cameron played Mike Seaver on Growing Pains and was America's love. However, his religious zeal grew along with his success. The more liberal circles in Hollywood were not pleased with Cameron's decision to become an outspoken evangelical Christian. Many insiders in the industry were offended by his shift from a teen hero to a religious crusader. According to reports, Cameron refused to film parts he believed immoral and insisted on revisions to the script for Growing Pains. He turned away from mainstream Hollywood once the show concluded, concentrating instead on Christian movies like Fireproof and Left Behind. Even though these movies were well received in religious communities, they signaled his break from popular entertainment. The distance between Cameron and Hollywood has only grown as a result of his vocal conservative and anti-LGBTQ+ beliefs. Although he has stated that his lack of positions is because of his beliefs, others counter that he hesitates to change with the times. Cameron is happy to be a prominent character in faith-based entertainment and isn't seeking a comeback like other performers on the blacklist. Roseanne Barr. With her blue-collar comedy in Roseanne, Roseanne Barr redefined television and pioneered the sitcom genre. However, one tweet caused her achievements to fall apart. Barr compared Valerie Jarrett, a former counselor to President Obama, to an ape in a racist joke she made in 2018. The retaliation was swift and severe. Despite its enormous ratings, ABC quickly canceled the Roseanne revival. The network's president, Channing Dungey, called Barr's comments abhorrent and inconsistent with our values. Barr first accused Ambien of being the source of her tweet, but the damage was already done. She then asserted that her conservative views were the reason for her demise, and she said she was a victim of cancel culture. Her past contentious remarks, however, seemed to indicate otherwise. Barr's mainstream career is still in ruins, despite her attempts at a return through stand-up and indie projects. Hollywood was more than prepared to move on, as seen by the continuation of the Roseanne spinoff, The Conners, without her. Barr's narrative warns about how a single act of folly can undo decades of accomplishment. Tippi Hedren. In the 1960s, Tippi Hedren was a rising star most recognized for her parts in Marnie and The Birds, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. But she had a nightmare behind the scenes. Later, Hedren said that Hitchcock was overbearing, making unwelcome attempts and ruining her career after she turned him down. She said he isolated her throughout filming by not letting anyone on the set talk to her. Hitchcock kept Hedren under contract when she finished Marnie, but he forbade her from working for other directors. For 2 years, this essentially put a stop to her Hollywood career. She never attained the heights of her early reputation, despite later finding employment in smaller enterprises. Hedren continued to speak out about Hitchcock's wrongdoing despite his blacklisting, opening the door for conversations about abuse in Hollywood. After a while, she discovered a new passion, saving large cats, even starting an animal sanctuary. Despite Hitchcock's attempts to suppress her, Hedren's legacy lives on as a survivor who revealed Hollywood's darker side, as well as an actor. Isaiah Washington. As Dr. Preston Burke in Grey's Anatomy, Isaiah Washington had a pivotal role. However, his inflammatory remarks caused his career to take a sharp turn for the worse. Washington allegedly contacted co-star TR in 2006. During a confrontation on site, Knight used a homophobic slur. Washington denied the charges and repeated the slur after the cast won a Golden Globe, igniting the flames even more. His career struggled to recover after ABC fired him, causing an immediate backlash. Even though Washington eventually expressed regret and said the label was unjustly applied, the harm had already been done. With parts in independent films like The 100, he made an effort at a Hollywood return, but he could never reclaim his old prominence. Washington declared in 2023 that he quit Hollywood, accusing the industry of betraying him. He also strengthened his political stance, further distancing him from the majority. Washington's narrative demonstrates the power of words, particularly in a field that places great importance on public perception. It's debatable if he was blacklisted or a victim of his behavior. Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson, who starred in popular films including Braveheart, Lethal Weapon, and The Patriot, was once one of Hollywood's most bankable actors. But in 2006, after being arrested for DUI and launching into an anti-Semitic outburst against a police officer, his career took a drastic turn. He was under fire right once for the incident, but his problems didn't end there. Leaked audio recordings from 2010 showed him using abusive, sexist, and racist language at Oksana Grigorieva, his then-girlfriend. Hollywood reacted quickly. Studios pulled away, and he lost several high-paying parts and directing opportunities. Gibson's 2016 film, Hacksaw Ridge, was an attempt at a career comeback, but the industry was still generally harsh. Many still view him as too contentious, even though some actors and directors have been open to working with him. Although Hollywood has a reputation for giving people second chances, Gibson's lengthy history of inflammatory remarks makes a complete comeback doubtful. Even though he still produces and directs movies, mainstream Hollywood mostly ignores him, demonstrating that not all controversies can be forgotten with time. CeeLo Green. The early 2010s saw CeeLo Green at the top of the globe. His solo hit, F.U., topped the charts, and he was a massive hit as part of Gnarls Barkley with Crazy. He got his reality show, The Good Life, and was a judge on The Voice. However, everything fell apart in 2014 after he was charged with adding ecstasy to a woman's drink. His tone-deaf reaction caused the most harm, even though he was spared significant jail time. Rather than remaining silent, Green resorted to Twitter to make startling assertions that rape cannot take place when a victim is unconscious. Fans and other celebrities quickly turned against him in response. His show was terminated. He was kicked off The Voice, and invitations to important events were withdrawn. In contrast to some superstars who make cautious comebacks, Green never really recovered. His music career stalled, and Hollywood, known for giving people second opportunities, wasn't too interested in bringing him back. His demise warns about how easily public opinion can shift, even for a well-liked celebrity. Thora Birch. Thora Birch was a rising star during the late 1990s and early 2000s. She was set up for a lengthy career in Hollywood following her standout roles in American Beauty and Hocus Pocus. But her father, not a personal dispute, stopped her progress. Jack Birch, Thora's father, was infamously controlling and frequently meddled in her professional life. Things reached a breaking point when Thora was chosen for an off-Broadway Dracula performance in 2010. The production crew reportedly felt uneasy during rehearsals because her father threatened one of her co-stars. Birch was dismissed from the play because the situation got out of hand. The industry subtly distanced itself from her as she attempted to continue acting. Producers and casting directors were reluctant to collaborate with someone whose family may foster such a hostile atmosphere. Birch wasn't involved in a scandal like other actors on the blacklist. Instead, her father's reputation was the reason for her demise. She is one of the rare examples of an actor's career being ruined by outside forces, as Hollywood has never really welcomed her back, despite her involvement in more petite movies. Jim Caviezel. Jim Caviezel used to be on the A-list in Hollywood, starring in movies like Frequency and The Count of Monte Cristo. However, after portraying Jesus Christ in Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ in 2004, his career took a dramatic turn for the worse. Despite being a box office hit, the movie generated a lot of controversy since many critics said it was too violent and even anti-Semitic. It is noted that Gibson forewarned Caviezel that accepting the part would destroy his career, and he was correct. Hollywood mostly shunned Caviezel after the movie, and he struggled to get prominent roles. Although some thought that the film's religious content led to his blacklisting, Caviezel's exile was probably influenced by his later, more vocal political and spiritual beliefs. At numerous gatherings, he made provocative remarks and became an outspoken advocate of conspiracy theories. Despite this, Caviezel has remained popular in conservative circles and keeps appearing in independent and faith-based movies. His career endures in a niche market that embraces his provocative persona, even though mainstream Hollywood may never completely embrace him again. Elisha Cuthbert. At one point, Elisha Cuthbert was heralded as Hollywood's next major star. After starring in The Girl Next Door, she was anticipated to become an A-list celebrity. Although she played Jack Bauer's daughter in a consistent role on 24, her career never quite took off as many had anticipated. The Girl Next Door didn't do well at the box office, even though the movie had a cult following, and Cuthbert had trouble landing another significant role. Her chances were further harmed by the bombings of the movies House of Wax and Captivity, in which she starred. Later, she starred in the sitcom Happy Endings, which attracted a devoted following before being abruptly terminated. Her most recent significant part was in The Ranch on Netflix, although even that program ended. Hollywood appears to have gently phased Cuthbert out, even though she has not been involved in any controversies. Although she hasn't been explicitly banned like other actors on this list, her career has steadily declined, demonstrating that even bright stars can vanish without causing a stir. Vince Vaughn. In the 2000s, Vince Vaughn was a significant force in comedy, appearing in popular films including The Breakup, Dodgeball, and Wedding Crashers. He was a mainstay of Hollywood's comedy scene because of his quick-witted, sardonic humor. But his career started to wane when he tried to move into more serious parts. After receiving harsh criticism for his True Detective Season 2 performance, he struggled to regain his previous success. However, Hollywood distanced itself from him for reasons other than his acting choices. A large portion of the industry disapproved of Vaughn because of his vocal conservative beliefs, especially his defense of gun rights. He controversially said in a 2015 interview that allowing weapons in schools would help stop mass shootings, a position that angered many Hollywood elites. Studios seem hesitant to cast him in big-budget movies, even though he hasn't been placed on any formal blacklists. Vaughn's days as a top comedic star are long gone, even if he still works in lesser movies. This shows that political beliefs and career setbacks can impact a person's longevity in Hollywood. Stacey Dash. Due to her portrayal of Dionne in Clueless and her subsequent TV appearances, Stacey Dash was once well known, but because of her political connections, her career took a sharp turn. Dash became a vocal conservative commentator who frequently made contentious remarks, unlike many Hollywood celebrities who keep their personal opinions to themselves. She made offensive comments about the transgender community, disregarded concerns about gender inequality, and asserted that Black History Month ought to be eliminated. She was blacklisted as a result of these remarks, which made her unpopular with many in Hollywood. She began working as a political commentator on Fox News in 2014, but her time there was brief. She was let go in 2017 following a string of on-air errors. Efforts to bring her acting career back to life have failed since networks and studios are still unwilling to collaborate with her. Even though she eventually regretted some of her statements, the harm had already been done. She is still contentious today, as Hollywood has firmly closed its doors to her, demonstrating that adopting strong political positions may have long-term effects on the entertainment sector. Katherine Heigl. At one point, Katherine Heigl was headed straight to the top of the Hollywood hierarchy. She appeared unstoppable after starring in the comedy hit Knocked Up and Grey's Anatomy. She then committed several actions that ended her career. When she publicly denounced Knocked Up as sexist, director Judd Apatow and co-star Seth Rogen became irate. She insulted showrunner Shonda Rhimes by withdrawing from Grey's Anatomy's Emmy consideration, saying the writing wasn't good enough. This made matters worse. According to reports, Heigl had a reputation for being challenging behind the scenes, shutting herself in her trailer over disagreements over the screenplay, making unreasonable demands, and fighting with directors. Hollywood lost tolerance soon, and her career took a sharp turn for the worse. Audiences didn't appear interested in her comeback attempts. Even if she continues appearing in TV shows and smaller projects, the business never accepts her return. Heigl's demise serves as a warning about how destroying relationships with the proper people may ruin a once bright career. Justin Bieber. Despite his continued dominance of the music charts, Justin Bieber's early irresponsible behavior ruined his chances of becoming a successful Hollywood star. Despite having the world at his feet as a teenage idol, Bieber's stardom seemed to go to his head. He was repeatedly arrested for driving recklessly, eluding authorities, and even damaging a neighbor's home, which cost him thousands of dollars. The most notorious instance was when he was on camera making fun of former President Bill Clinton while peeing in a mop bucket at a restaurant. Hollywood studios immediately distanced themselves from him when his bad boy activities drew significant criticism. The film industry still views Bieber as a liability, even though he has subsequently remade himself as a more mature artist. His image never entirely recovered, even though he had a few cameos in films like Zoolander 2 and CSI. Bieber is mainly excluded from the acting industry because of his previous antics, which showed that he wasn't worth the risk, even if Hollywood likes a good redemption narrative. Dorothy Parker. Dorothy Parker was known for her unrivaled literary ability and quick wit, and was one of Hollywood's brightest thinkers during the Golden Age. She was a powerful force behind the scenes, contributing to screenplays such as A Star is Born, 1937, and Saboteur, 1942. However, she became a target during the Red Scare because of her frank political views and scathing humor. Hollywood became fixated on identifying and eliminating everyone suspected of having communist affiliations in the years following World War II. Parker's career in the entertainment industry was abruptly ended due to her affiliation with left-wing causes, which put her on the notorious Hollywood blacklist. She fell prey to McCarthyism, a period when a person's livelihood may be destroyed by mere suspicion. Parker's Hollywood career never entirely recovered, in contrast to numerous blacklisted individuals who subsequently made a comeback. Despite continuing to write in various genres, political paranoia cost Hollywood one of its best screenwriters. She is now regarded as a gifted but tragically exiled individual. Martin Lawrence. Throughout the 1990s, Martin Lawrence became one of the most witty and vivacious comedians. He appeared untouchable as the star of the popular TV series Martin and the movies Big Mama's House and Bad Boys. But his capricious actions frequently garnered media attention. When he presented Saturday Night Live in 1994, he gave an unexpected and startling speech. Even to this day, NBC has prohibited him from ever returning because of his offensive and obscene comments regarding female hygiene. The network even went so far as to cut out his whole speech in reruns, making it one of the harshest bans in SNL history. His unpredictable conduct continued when he was admitted to the hospital in 1996 when he was allegedly very dehydrated and exhausted after dashing into traffic while brandishing a revolver. Over the years, he also made news for remarks that were homophobic, which further harmed his reputation. Even while he is well known in the comedy industry, Hollywood avoids him, and his once booming career has never fully recovered. Lena Horne. One of Hollywood's most brilliant actors, Lena Horne broke down barriers between races and demonstrated that ability could cut across color lines. Despite her success with films like Stormy Weather and Cabin in the Sky, she continued to face discrimination from Hollywood's racial politics. She was blacklisted during the Red Scare because of her civil rights activism, which led to accusations of communist connections. She had trouble finding work and was rejected by the industry. But Horne retaliated, unlike other people on the blacklist. She defied silence and became a successful singer, appearing on TV and in nightclubs. She triumphantly returned to film in Death of a Gunfighter during the late 1960s. She also rose to fame on Broadway, demonstrating that her journey did not end with Hollywood's rejection. Horne's perseverance allowed her to regain her position in entertainment history, even if the blacklist almost ended her career. She is now regarded as a trailblazer who resisted allowing her reputation to be defined by Hollywood's politics of fear. Natalie Maines. The Dixie Chicks, now the Chicks, strong vocalist Natalie Maines endured one of the most precipitous declines in popularity in the entertainment business. She boldly criticized then-President George W. Bush and the Iraq War during a London concert 2003 when the band was at its most successful. Even though free speech is essential to democracy, the reaction was swift and intense. The Dixie Chicks faced backlash from fans. Conservative organizations destroyed their recordings, and country radio stations pulled them from playlists. The band tried to recover, but the harm was already done. Specifically, Maines became the center of the dispute. She eventually expressed regret but withdrew her apology, sticking to her original statement. Maines continues to be contentious, unlike the other band members who eventually made their way back into the industry. She has mostly stayed away from mainstream Hollywood projects while still producing music. Her experience demonstrates that politics may be as risky as scandal in some fields. Lloyd Bridges. Lloyd Bridges, the father of Jeff and Beau Bridges, was a well-known actor who starred in more than 150 films and television shows. But when he acknowledged that he had once belonged to the Actors Laboratory Theater, a group reputed to have ties to the Communist Party, his career took a significant turn in the 1950s. Such an admission was sufficient to get him blacklisted during the McCarthy era. Thankfully, Bridges' banishment from Hollywood was brief compared to many others. In 1951, he resumed his career and made his television debut in Man's First Debt. Later, Bridges gained notoriety for his parts in comedies like Airplane and Sea Hunt. He regained his reputation as a recognized performer despite the fright. However, his story warns about the perils of the political paranoia that characterized Hollywood at the time. Josephine Baker. Josephine Baker, a pioneering singer, dancer, and actress, was a naturalized French citizen. With Siren of the Tropics in 1927, she became the first black woman to star in a film picture. Baker, a well-liked entertainer in France, had a much more complex connection with the United States. She publicly chastised a prominent columnist in 1951 for exposing racial inequality in American arenas. She was accused of having communist sympathies, a defamatory designation during the McCarthy era, and the backlash was immediate. She was banished from Hollywood due to losing her U.S. work visa. Baker was compelled to return to France, where she pursued her work and became prominent in the civil rights movement. She collaborated closely with Martin Luther King Jr. and refused to perform for segregated audiences. Hollywood never welcomed her back, even though she was eventually permitted to return to the United States 10 years later. However, her impact as an activist and entertainer cannot be denied. Snoop Dogg. One of the most well-known hip-hop artists, Snoop Dogg, is famous for his easygoing demeanor and passion for marijuana. Although Hollywood hasn't explicitly banned him, his interactions with some nations have been much more complex. His love of cannabis has resulted in numerous international travel bans and legal troubles. Because of his prior drug-related convictions, he has been prohibited from entering the United Kingdom, Norway, and Australia, among other countries. One of the most prominent instances was in 2012 when he tried to enter Norway with marijuana and was banned for 2 years. Snoop has maintained his status as a significant cultural figure despite these limitations. He has remained relevant in popular culture through his forays into acting, business, and even food, where he collaborated with Martha Stewart. Even though certain nations view him as a nuisance, Hollywood continues to welcome him, demonstrating that his charm and talent in the entertainment sector transcend his controversies. Orson Welles. Many people consider Orson Welles among the best filmmakers of all time. His 1941 masterpiece, Citizen Kane, is still regarded as a standard for great filmmaking, but his genius frequently clashed with Hollywood's political climate. Widely interpreted as a critique of William Randolph Hearst, Citizen Kane's portrayal of a media mogul drew criticism from the film business, which is always leery of controversy. As a result, Hearst attempted to ruin Welles's career by exploiting his power. When Welles was charged with having communist affiliations during the Red Scare, things became worse. Even though he was ultimately exonerated, the harm had already been done when the FBI launched an inquiry into him. Welles spent much of his later career in Europe after moving there due to financial difficulties making his films. Even though he kept working, his influence in Hollywood never returned to its former level. He is now regarded as a visionary who suffered consequences for opposing influential people and defying the political norms of the field. Vanessa Marquez. During the prime years of ER, Vanessa Marquez's most well-known role was that of Nurse Wendy Goldman, but her career abruptly ended and she struggled to find employment for years. After speaking out about abuse on the set of ER, Marquez later claimed that she had been banned from Hollywood. She blamed George Clooney for her career demise, saying he influenced casting choices to prevent her from getting a job. Clooney insisted that he had no hiring or firing power and refuted these accusations. In any case, Marquez never recovered the momentum she had before. She tragically made news once more in 2018 after police shot and murdered her while conducting a welfare check at her residence. Her narrative reveals the darker side of Hollywood, where accusations and controversies have the power to ruin a career abruptly. It is a tragic illustration of the difficulties experienced by people who speak out against mistreatment in the industry. Tara Subkoff. In the late 1990s, Tara Subkoff was a budding actress who landed parts in movies like The Last Days of Disco and As Good as It Gets. However, once she allegedly turned down Hollywood mogul Harvey Weinstein's approaches, her career ended abruptly. Subkoff disclosed that Weinstein had blacklisted her, making it nearly impossible for her to get acting work in the wake of the #MeToo movement. She was forced to change course and started the Imitation of Christ brand as a fashion designer and artist. She succeeded in her new career path, but never recovered from her previous reputation in Hollywood. Although she has made a modest comeback to acting in recent years, starring in independent horror movies, the harm to her career was irreparable. Subkoff's example is just one of several that highlight the power dynamics in Hollywood, where turning down the wrong person's overtures may result in a freeze-out that keeps talented people out of the spotlight for years, if not permanently. Mira Sorvino. Rising Hollywood sensation Mira Sorvino starred in beloved movies like Romy and Michelle's High School Reunion and won an Academy Award for Mighty Aphrodite. However, after turning down Harvey Weinstein's advances, she was excluded from meaningful opportunities. Years later, director Peter Jackson disclosed that Weinstein told him not to cast Sorvino in The Lord of the Rings, describing her as difficult. Later, Sorvino acknowledged she was unaware of how much Weinstein's influence impacted her career, stating, "There may have been other factors, but I felt iced out." Following the #MeToo movement's revelation of Weinstein's blacklisting practices, Sorvino received a flurry of support. Weinstein's former co-worker, Quentin Tarantino, said he felt terrible about not defending her. Sorvino has now made a modest comeback in Hollywood, making appearances in independent films and television shows, despite losing what could have been decades of significant roles. Despite unjustly putting her career on hold, she continues to be a vocal opponent of Hollywood's poisonous culture and a supporter of reform in the business. Ashley Judd. Ashley Judd, like Mira Sorvino, was placed on Hollywood's blacklist as a result of Harvey Weinstein's influence. The late 1990s and early 2000s, the gifted actress, most renowned for Kiss the Girls and Double Jeopardy, had a bright future, but Judd later discovered why her name had mysteriously vanished off key casting lists. She said she was considered for a significant role in The Lord of the Rings, but was purposefully forced out by Weinstein's fraudulent charges, accusing him of ruining her career after she turned down his unwelcome attempts. Later, Peter Jackson acknowledged that Weinstein had told him and his group not to cast Judd. Judd filed a complaint against Weinstein in 2018, in contrast to several of his other victims. Even though some of her allegations were rejected, the lawsuit raised awareness of the systematic abuse in Hollywood. Judd has maintained her reputation as a humanitarian, author, and supporter of women's rights despite the setbacks to her career, demonstrating that her courage and moral character will always triumph over the harm Weinstein attempted to do to her job. Tobey Maguire. As Peter Parker in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, Tobey Maguire was at the top of Hollywood's A-list in the early 2000s. Maguire became one of the most well-known figures in the business due to the box office successes, which brought in billions of dollars globally. However, Maguire's career slowed after Spider-Man 3's 2007 breakthrough. Some thought he was just taking a vacation, but there were reports that Hollywood shunned him because of his high-stakes gambling habit and on-set demeanor. Molly's Game dramatizes the narrative of Maguire's involvement in the notorious underground poker ring that included millionaires and A-list celebrities. According to several insiders, studios were less interested in him because of his participation and allegedly haughty manner. Some people think he was typecast and couldn't get rid of his superhero persona. Maguire mostly stopped performing after The Great Gatsby in 2013 to concentrate on producing. But after seeing him again in Spider-Man: No Way Home, people question whether Hollywood is prepared to welcome him back. Freddie Prinze Jr. With roles in popular films like She's All That, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and Scooby-Doo, Freddie Prinze Jr. was the ultimate heartthrob of the late 1990s and early 2000s. He seemed poised to be a leading guy for years because of his charisma and beautiful looks. However, he vanished after that. Unlike other blacklisted performers, Prinze Jr. was not forced out of Hollywood by scandal or controversy. Instead, he became irritated with the sector. He once said he had a terrible time working on 24 because of co-star Kiefer Sutherland, whom he called unprofessional. He also said Hollywood had lost its attractiveness, which made him turn to other interests like voice acting and writing. Working behind the scenes for WWE, Prinze Jr. discovered a second career in professional wrestling. His real-life happily ever after was his marriage to Sarah Michelle Gellar. Some celebrities depart on their terms, as demonstrated by Prinze Jr., who appears satisfied living outside the Hollywood spotlight, despite periodically returning for voice roles and minor projects. Taylor Lautner. During Twilight's peak, Taylor Lautner was all the rage. His chiseled physique had people swooning, and his portrayal of Jacob Black made him a worldwide phenomenon. But his celebrity came and went as swiftly as it had risen. Lautner found it difficult to establish himself outside Twilight, unlike his co-stars Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson, who smoothly transitioned into highly regarded parts. Hollywood insiders said he lacked the acting skills to carry a movie alone. Studios lost faith in his star power after his post-Twilight films, such as Abduction, did poorly at the box office. As he grew out of those roles, some argue that his once bankable reputation as a teenage heartthrob worked against him. Eventually, Lautner decided to live a more sedate life away from Hollywood and stepped back from performing. He has experimented with little endeavors and even recently made light of his Twilight history. Even if his A-list days are over, Lautner appears content with his career's surprising direction. Jennifer Grey. One of the most recognizable faces of the 1980s was that of Jennifer Grey. She was poised for a lengthy and prosperous career with her iconic appearances in Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Dirty Dancing. Plastic surgery, however, was the one choice that altered everything. In the early 1990s, Grey decided to get her nose done, significantly changing how she looked. It had the reverse impact of what she had thought would help her career. She was no longer known by viewers or casting directors, and the industry that had previously welcomed her now entirely ignored her. Later, Grey bemoaned that she had lost her career and called it the nose job from hell. She kept taking on smaller parts despite the setback, and in 2010, she even won Dancing with the Stars. Grey has talked candidly about her time in Hollywood in recent years, indicating that she is coming to terms with her past. Even if Hollywood once abandoned her, fans continue to adore and remember the actress who danced her way into movie history as seen by the rumors of a Dirty Dancing sequel. Wesley Snipes. A former Hollywood titan, Wesley Snipes was well known for his captivating roles as the vampire hunter in the Blade trilogy and White Men Can't Jump. But his career took a sharp turn for the worst when he got caught up in a well-known tax evasion controversy. Snipes received a 3-year prison sentence and an outstanding $17 million in fines and penalties after being found guilty of willfully neglecting to file tax returns for 3 years. He was influenced by tax protester beliefs, which claimed that the U.S. tax system was illegal, leading to his legal issues in the early 2000s. Snipes fulfilled his term and was housed in a minimum security prison in Pennsylvania, despite the attempts of his legal team to appeal. The consequences ruined his career. The lucrative Blade brand was placed on indefinite hold, and the studios distanced themselves. The narrative of Snipes warns about the dangers of disregarding the IRS and the brittleness of even the most prosperous Hollywood professions. Paz de la Huerta. Paz de la Huerta had all the makings of a Hollywood star and was most renowned for playing Nucky Thompson's mistress in Boardwalk Empire. Her off-screen actions swiftly turned her career into a cautionary story, even though her sexy appearance and raw energy made her stand out. Her wild and erratic conduct was documented by New York Magazine in 2010. One such instance had her reportedly surprising spectators by taking off her clothes in a public sauna. She gained a reputation for being unreliable on the Boardwalk Empire set, frequently coming late, forgetting lines, and arguing with producers. In 2011, she made headlines once more for her wild lifestyle after she flashed the cameras in a viral scene at the Golden Globes while intoxicated, embarrassing HBO. She was sued for allegedly assaulting a reality TV personality in a nightclub, which was the last nail in the coffin of her career. Hollywood, renowned for accepting strange conduct, took offense at her persistent lack of professionalism. Despite her sporadic appearances in the independent film industry, Paz de la Huerta is still regarded as a lost talent, recognized more for her scandals than for her acting. Michael Richards. Michael Richards, who will consistently be recognized as Kramer from Seinfeld, had a successful career until one incident in 2006 ruined it all. Richards became enraged with a heckler at a stand-up comedy show at the Laugh Factory and launched into an astonishing barrage of racial epithets. The audience was taken aback by his aggressive behavior and frequent use of the N-word, and the incident was captured on camera. The video became viral in hours, and indignation quickly grew. Richards apologized on The Late Show with David Letterman in an attempt to repair the damage, but his clumsy, meandering demeanor only made things worse. As a result, he lost respect in the entertainment industry, and Hollywood discreetly severed its relationship with him. Attempts at a comeback, such as a part in Curb Your Enthusiasm, did not significantly improve his image. The beloved comedian, who had appeared in one of the best sitcoms ever, was forced to live on the sidelines for good. His tale is still regarded as one of Hollywood's most spectacular collapses, demonstrating how quickly even the most prominent stars may be destroyed. Tila Tequila. A pioneer of internet superstar culture, Tila Tequila had millions of followers on MySpace in the early 2000s before social media stardom was even a thing. Because of her prominence, she was cast in the bisexual dating program A Shot at Love with Tila Tequila on MTV, which became a global sensation. However, a string of startling issues quickly brought Tila's career to a head. She posted a picture of herself wearing Nazi clothing in 2013, along with other unsettling pro-Hitler and anti-Semitic remarks. The reaction was immediate, with Hollywood utterly rejecting her. After being courted by big networks, she quickly rose to fame. She doubled down, supporting conspiracy theories and white racist rhetoric rather than taking the fallout to heart. With unpredictable conduct, strange outbursts, and unsuccessful efforts at reality TV comebacks, Tila's decline persisted. Her tale serves as a sobering reminder of how easily Hollywood may abandon someone who transgresses the law. She was once a leader on the internet, but is now shunned by the sector she once controlled. Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan was once Hollywood's golden girl, from The Parent Trap to teen classics like Mean Girls and Freaky Friday. Her undeniable talent positioned her to become the next Julia Roberts. But there was a price for fame. By the middle of the 2000s, Lohan's issues were beginning to take precedence over her work. She was often arrested for drug possession and DUI, turning her from a well-respected actress into a tabloid regular. She was famously hard to deal with on movie sets, either arriving late or not. Her dismissal from The Other Side in 2010, due to producers' beliefs that she was uninsurable, was the turning point. Even when she tried to make a comeback, such as with Liz and Dick, her performances were lambasted, and directors were unwilling to risk her. Hollywood has essentially closed its doors, despite her attempts to repair her reputation by relocating to Dubai and concentrating on commercial endeavors. The story of Lohan, who was once a promising A-lister, warns that even the most brilliant people can be derailed by personal issues. Paul Reubens. In the 1980s, Paul Reubens, the adored inventor of Pee Wee Herman, was a household name. Pee Wee's Big Adventure became a cult classic, and his eccentric children's program, Pee Wee's Playhouse, was a huge hit. But when he was jailed for indecent exposure at an adult movie theater in 1991, his career took a terrible turn. After the controversy made headlines, Reubens was soon made fun of. Toy companies ceased selling Pee Wee items, Pee Wee's Playhouse was canceled, and networks dumped him. Reubens disappeared from the public eye for years before returning in the late 1990s with cameos in Mystery Men and Blow. The stain of his arrest never completely went away, even when he triumphantly returned in 2016 with Pee Wee's Big Holiday. Some celebrities bounced back from scandal, but Reubens' episode was too well known for Hollywood to ignore. Even with his cult following, he is still more closely linked to controversy than Pee Wee Herman's pure fun. His career demonstrates how a single error may irrevocably change a person's reputation. Jeffrey Jones. Formerly a popular character actor, Jeffrey Jones was best known for playing Ferris Bueller's Day Off's hilariously obstinate Principal Rooney. He had a successful Hollywood career, starring in movies including The Devil's Advocate and Beetlejuice. However, all changed in 2002 when he was caught by the police for having pornographic pictures of children. After entering a no-contest plea, he was given community service, probation, and the requirement to register as an offender. His career was all but ended, despite landing small parts in HBO's Deadwood. Jones had not learned his lesson, as evidenced by his subsequent arrest in 2010 for neglecting to update his registry status. Hollywood had already abandoned him, and this second transgression made it clear that he would never return. Jones was formerly a well-known supporting actor, but studios stopped recognizing him. His demise is a sobering reminder that certain crimes destroy legacies in addition to ruining careers. The doors of Hollywood slammed shut, and they are still sealed for him. Mark Salling. As Noah Puck Puckerman on the popular musical series Glee, Mark Salling shot to prominence. He was well positioned for a prosperous career when the program concluded because of his musical performances and bad boy persona, which won him over many fans. But everything changed in 2015. He was arrested right away when authorities found hundreds of unlawful photos in his Los Angeles home during a raid. After the shocking news stunned Hollywood and his followers, Salling was abruptly removed from all upcoming projects, including adding Shankar's Gods and Secrets. His Glee co-stars expressed shock at the accusations and distanced themselves. Salling entered a guilty plea and was sentenced to years in prison while awaiting sentencing. But in 2018, he committed suicide before he could receive a sentence. Since then, his name has been removed from Hollywood history. He is hardly ever mentioned in Glee reruns, and any efforts to commemorate the show conveniently exclude him. Once a rising star, Salling turned into a warning on how eerie crimes might result in self-destruction and possibly a total ban from the industry. Amanda Bynes. Before smoothly transitioning into film with classics like She's the Man and Hairspray, Amanda Bynes was a Hollywood star who dominated Nickelodeon with The Amanda Show. She did, however, struggle with popularity like many child stars do. Following her departure from acting, she gained notoriety for her unpredictable actions, which included numerous arrests, careless driving, and drug addiction. Her 2013 Twitter outburst, however, was what put a stop to her career. During this odd outburst, Bynes threw obscene accusations at Miley Cyrus, Drake, Rihanna, and Jay-Z. One particularly troubling tweet she sent to Drake said, "I want at Drake to murder my explicit." Directors soon lost interest in casting her because Hollywood could not stand her erratic conduct. Bynes declared she had no intention of returning to acting and enrolled in fashion school rather than battling for a comeback. Even though she is still working on her personal development, Hollywood has fully moved on. Movies with Amanda Bynes as the star are officially over. Stephen Collins. Stephen Collins, who portrayed Reverend Eric Camden in the enduring family drama Seventh Heaven, was the quintessential good father figure for over 10 years. But he couldn't have been more different from the figure he played in real life. Collins acknowledged having inappropriate interactions with children years prior, according to a startling tape of a therapy session that surfaced in 2014. His admission shocked the film industry. Reruns of Seventh Heaven were removed from television networks, and he was sacked from TED 2 almost immediately. The fact that the man who portrayed a beloved TV father had such a troubled past appalled the show's viewers. Because of the statute of limitations, Collins was never charged with a crime, but his career was essentially finished. After a final interview with People magazine, in which he acknowledged his crime but swore he was seeking assistance, he withdrew from the spotlight. But Hollywood had already decided that Stephen Collins was done. His career is a sobering reminder that some disclosures will result in everlasting exile for an actor, regardless of their level of accomplishment. Paula Deen. Once one of the most well-known celebrity chefs in the world, Paula Deen was renowned for her hearty Southern cooking and affable demeanor. She amassed an empire through her restaurant business, cookbooks, and television shows. However, a lawsuit that revealed her previous racially offensive comments in 2013 brought her career to a complete collapse. She acknowledged using a racial slur during a deposition, which sparked an immediate flurry of outrage. Deen tried to minimize the incident by saying that she had used the word decades prior, but the harm had already been done. Major advertisers, including Walmart, Target, and QVC, severed their relations with her, and the Food Network promptly terminated her. Deen posted several heartfelt apology tapes to salvage her career, but it was too late. The media business, including Hollywood, had moved on, unwilling to be associated with someone whose reputation had been damaged. Her mainstream career was destroyed, but she attempted a modest comeback on digital channels. Once a household celebrity, Paula Deen became a warning about how easily a star may be used against them by the entertainment industry. Kathy Griffin. Once a well-respected comic, Kathy Griffin was renowned for her sardonic humor and unafraid demeanor, but she uploaded a picture of herself clutching a bloody mannequin head that looked like then-President Donald Trump in May 2017. Her career took a terrible turn. Companies like Squatty Potty cut their connections with her, and CNN dismissed her from their New Year's Eve special, which she had co-hosted for more than 10 years. At first, Griffin expressed regret, acknowledging that she had overreached herself, but the harm had already been done. Theaters received death threats for hosting her, so they canceled her stand-up tour. The controversy was further heightened by the Secret Service's investigation into her. Hollywood had already moved on, even though she tried to make a return by making fun of the incident in her comedy. Griffin, who used to appear frequently on talk shows, was banned. She continues to be active on social media. She occasionally does stand-up, but the business has closed chiefly its doors to her, demonstrating that not all scandals can be turned into comeback stories. Robert Blake. From his early days as a child star in Little Rascals to his portrayal of the gruff detective in Beretta, Robert Blake's Hollywood career spanned decades. But when he was charged with planning the 2001 murder of his wife, Bonnie Lee Bakley, his reputation was permanently damaged. Outside a restaurant in Los Angeles, Bakley was discovered shot dead in Blake's vehicle. Authorities quickly detained Blake after two stuntmen claimed he had previously attempted to recruit them to kill Bakley, despite Blake's insistence that he was inside getting a gun he had left behind. Despite Blake's 2005 acquittal based on insufficient physical evidence, a civil court later ruled him accountable for her death and ordered him to reimburse Bakley's family $30 million. He became notorious due to the trial, and Hollywood abandoned him. Blake, who was broke, said he was looking for a job, but no one wanted to work with him. His decline in popularity is still regarded as one of Hollywood's most sinister scandals, demonstrating that public opinion never forgets, even if the law spares you. Jamie Kennedy. With his humorous appearances in Scream and Malibu's Most Wanted, Jamie Kennedy briefly gained notoriety, but by 2012, his career was already in decline. One of the worst live television performances ever followed. Kennedy awkwardly navigated awkward conversations, rude jokes, and technical glitches while hosting a New Year's Eve special for the CW in Los Angeles. He made a crude joke about Psy, the South Korean rapper behind Gangnam Style, saying, "Now when you hear Asian rapper, you won't just think of a plastic bag that holds your fortune cookie." To make it worse, he utterly messed up the countdown to midnight, missing it by 10 seconds. Many people thought it was a career-ending act, and the incident was widely ridiculed. Kennedy subsequently stated that the show was intended to be chaotic, but the harm had already been done. After that, he had trouble getting significant parts, and his name started to conjure up more negative connotations than positive ones. He is still mostly unknown today, warning about what happens when Hollywood loses faith in you.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon